Watkins Glen, a quaint village nestled among innumerable falls along the Finger Lakes region in the heart of New York wine country. The town was made famous for the road races held along the village's main street in the late 40s and 50s, which eventually made their way to the 3.4-mile circuit that is Watkins Glen. The Glen has played host to many racing series, including Formula One and the United States Grand Prix. But this weekend, the Ferrari Challenge North America has descended upon this iconic track for the fourth round of the 2024 championship season. Who will master this old-school circuit and emerge victorious from the weekend? Only time will tell. What a beautiful sight. And that is the cars coming out into pit lane, and also the delightful countryside that surrounds this Watkins Glen circuit. Good morning, welcome. Day 2 of our race weekend here with Ferrari Challenge North America for 2024. Midpoint of our season for this year. And the sun is coming out, and we are looking forward to some great racing today. We're here at Watkins Glen International before we move to Sonoma Raceway. Then it's Indianapolis Motor Speedway, then round 7, our final round of our 2024 year, takes place at Imola for the Finale Mondiale, middle of October. So I was waxing lyrical about the beautiful countryside that surrounds this Watkins Glen circuit. It is something special, and I have to say the circuit itself is manicured to perfection, and what a challenge this circuit is. As you can see, some 11 turns that really test our Ferrari Challenge drivers here. With not so much runoff area, and if you get it wrong, you stay wrong, as we saw during the first set of races yesterday. And well, you can see our 488 Challenge cars are looking forward to getting out there for their qualifying session to set the grid for the race to come a little bit later on today for our 488, both Pirelli and Shell drivers. Weather conditions absolutely glorious already this morning. 33 degrees the track temperature, the air temperature is 27 degrees, and a little less wind than yesterday, just 4 kilometers per hour. And alongside me then, Ferrari brand ambassador, top racing driver, and all-round good geezer is Tony Verlander. Wow, what a morning after the night before, because last night was something special. Today is going to be great as well.
Yeah, good morning everyone. So, improvements, that is what is expected today. I was just at the breakfast in the Ferrari hospitality. Drivers still looking their onboard videos, trying to improve from yesterday's qualifying. We saw some really fast lap times yesterday. The 296 challenge cars were down into 145s. And also these 488 challenge cars were really on it. So 6 10-minute qualifying sessions. I like this format. This gives you the opportunity to find a clear space at the track, and that's what qualifying is all about. You need to show your performance and to have a good starting place for afternoon race.
Well said, Tony. Tony, myself here in the broadcast studio, and in the sunshine, glowing as always, is Amanda Busick.
Hey, Dave. Yeah, you were talking about the weather here today. We're already pushing 79 degrees for our American followers out there. We're going to reach temperatures of around 90 today, so we'll be a hot one here at Watkins Glen. So again, a little reprieve here this morning as we get qualifying under the way. Track has already been busy this morning. We've had Club Challenge on the track and now backing up into qualifying. But as Tony was talking about the importance of qualifying, if you go to race results yesterday, every pole position ended up winning the race except one. That is how important these sessions upcoming will be. You go to yesterday in some of the races, when you look at the ability to find passing zones around Watkins Glen, it's really being able to take advantage of a mistake that your competitor may make, or it's going to come down to the start of the race, as we saw yesterday with Roger Monteforte being able to get that pass on Jerry Watchers, who was the pole sitter in her class. But yeah, it'll be a busy day on track here today. And guys, I got these to hand out, so we'll see you here shortly.
Hey, thank you so much, Amanda. Great to have you with us as the cars set out onto the track then, and the points you make are absolutely critical. That primarily to get an overtake done here, you've got to try and provoke a mistake from the driver ahead of you, because that's what it's going to take to enable you to move up the order potentially. And there was lots of that yesterday, and we hope to see some more of the same today. This, though, is, as Tony has described, the short, sharp qualifying session, which enables our drivers to set their best time and get the grid sorted for the races to come a little bit later on today. It's all about track space. It's all about dialing the car in. 10 minutes is such a short time, Tony. You've got to be on it almost from the get-go, haven't you, friend?
Yes, lessons learned from yesterday. So tire pressures, you need to get them right, but also driver, with his driving, he can vary this process, how to build up the pressures, the temperature to the tires. So this is one aspect also, to be ready with your driving when the time is right and the peak of the tire. With the new tire, there's always 1 or 2 laps where you have more performance, you're able to do a faster lap time, so you really need to be ready to do that and execute a perfect lap.
Well said, as we watch the 483 car of Dan Magnuszewski, then the Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale driver. These 488 challenge cars that we're watching right now, they're out for their qualifying session first up today. And this is qualifying at 2, effectively. Had to do it all yesterday. And Matt Dalton then for Ferrari of Long Island, we can see now. It'll be a moment or two before we get any meaningful lap times up on the board. Matt Dalton, good podium finish yesterday, finished P2, and there you can see the 471 car being driven by Greg Griffin. Took a P5 yesterday, Tony.
I think actually Dalton won the race.
Yes, because a penalty was applied.
Yes, there was a contact between the race winner and Dalton at the opening lap, turn 5. For me, it was a minor touch. I don't know if it was enough for a penalty. There was some high emotions, some high temperatures after the race, but today is another day, so I think both drivers are okay, and I think there was nothing done on purpose. First lap, a lot of traffic, a lot of things going on, and side by side going into 5 doesn't always work out.
Yes, it was Gerda Svenslovas, wasn't it, that actually took the checkered flag first, but you're absolutely right, and well done for remembering that. It's a vastly superior memory quotient than I have, because a penalty was awarded, and Gerda, then I spoke to him actually this morning, and that, of course, elevated Matt Dalton into that P1 position. So there we are, Tony's view on whether that was a penalty, whether it was not a penalty. Thankfully, we are in our broadcast studio rather than race control, so we're not charged with the responsibilities of those decisions, which, from my money, I'm pretty happy about as we watch Gregory Hopkins then. And lots of the other drivers, in fact, almost all the 19 drivers out there, perhaps with the exception of 5, they're out there. So the Foreign Cars Italia driver, Gregory Hopkins, of course, linked very much to other drivers within the Ferrari Challenge as well. And it's great to see Gregory Hopkins with that familiar livery that you'll see across the categories of the Ferrari Challenge, and we'll see what Gregory can do in this qualifying session. Just 10 minutes, as I said, that these drivers have to set the best time that they possibly can. Gregory Hopkins yesterday then on track taking a P3, but following a great debut in the Watkins Glen Race 1, and by debut I mean his first race of the weekend. He'll be brimming with confidence, I would think, going into this race, the 462 488 Challenge, which we watch right now. Stephen Chen currently second fastest. As you can see, as the graphics begin to emerge on the left-hand side of your screen, Joel Rosenbacher quickest at the moment, then it's Stephen Chen, then Dan Magnuszewski, Gary Ott, Richard Pineda. Met Richard's family last night at the celebrations. What a lovely family, and Thank you for your kind words about, mostly about Tony Verlander. I think I did get a mention.
Yellow flag, turn 1.
Thank you. Yes, yellow flag in turn 1, and that's the reason why it's going to be more than just a waved yellow, I regret to say. And we'll try and pick up on who that was that has made contact with the barriers. And here is Matt Dalton then, who had posted a 1:56.627. Now, there you can see the stricken car into the barriers then.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens now with qualifying. Obviously, a yellow flag at turn 1 is not ideal. We had a similar accident. I think that red flag will come out soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's just a question of time, isn't it? Because the car has got to be recovered, and that will nullify this qualifying session, of which half was already done. There is the confirmation of the red flag, Tony. Well anticipated.
Yeah, I think this is a tricky thing now because we have 4 minutes to go. Drivers will line up on the pit lane, I assume, and then just wait to get green flag or that the pit lane is opened again for exit and rejoining the track. Not a lot of time, so you need to find the space, trust the tires. You build up the tire temps now, but it will cool down a bit when you go back to the pit lane. So exciting, interesting.
What's the deal here, Tony? Because ordinarily when you get a red flag situation, the clock is paused, whereas the clock is continuing to count down.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Normally I would expect that it's paused, and qualifying being a really important official session, you would try to do the whole 10 minutes. We have some time issues that we need to respect by. I assume that they would free and stop the clock, because a lot of drivers were just sort of warming up the tires and building the confidence with the race car and not really posting any hot laps or quick lap times yet. So this is...
Now we think that potentially, Tony, it's Venceslovas is in the wall. Gerdas Venceslovas. Now Gerdas, who on track yesterday took the win, took a penalty, and therefore finished the race P2. If that is Gerdas Venceslovas, it's only from the image that we saw. That will have royally ruined his qualifying session, and potentially, depending on what the damage is to the car, perhaps his position in the race. We will see. So first and foremost, of course, Gerdas is out of the car and perfectly okay, which just reinforces the integral safety of these 488 Challenge cars. They're renowned for their safety, but that'll be a dent to Gerdas in terms of his confidence as well.
Yeah, not an ideal start for the second day of racing, and obviously the expectation is he put the car on the exit curb or was just too optimistic with throttle coming out of 1.
Yeah,
it's a corner with quite hard braking, go down few gears, the track drops on you, so you really need to be close to the apex of the corner, tight line, and then let the car sort of take you to the outside. And if the tires are not ready, a little bit of wheel spin or the rear just snapping out, it may get the driver like we now saw. Right now I don't think there was any contact, so I just think it was more a driver error.
Yeah, I think you're probably right in terms of your analysis of that. Now, as the session was effectively suspended, it was Matt Dalton, Joel Rosenbacher, then Stephen Chen ahead of Dan Magnuszewski, Greg Griffin, Gary Ott, Enoch Hurd, Richard Pineda, Steve Blevitt, Brad Evans, then the top 10. The driver that's P11 in the qualifying is Gerdas Venceslovas, and I'm seeing the checkered flag out, Tony. Yes. That means that effectively,
wow,
and this proves the point, doesn't it? In terms of qualifying, get out there and put a banker in.
Yes, 100%. And this is an example that things can change really quickly. And here I think it's a matter that we need to respect the timetable, and each category, each class has 10 minutes, and that's it.
Well, so the order that you saw is the order in which they will be starting from. So Matt Dalton then, who inherited the win yesterday, he's going to be going from P1 on the 488 Shell grid today. So well done to Matt Dalton. Joel Rosenbacher will complete the front row of our Shell drivers in the 488. So yes, it just just really suggests that, get out there, bank a lap, and at least you've got it in there, because when you look at the likes of Mitchell Green, Greg Hopkins, Kevin Orsini, Henry Hummel, Lance Corley, none of those have set times, Tony. They hadn't even come out of the pit lane. So, their grid position is much further back than they would like to be necessarily.
Yeah, I think the grid is a little bit mixed because not all the drivers were on a hot lap yet and were not able to post a fast lap time. So a mixed grid for this 488 shell category for the afternoon.
Okay, then with the checkered flag out on the session has been completed. Therefore, we will bring you the confirmed classification, and here it is. Matt Dalton then with a 156.627, he's P1. Ahead of Joel Rosenbacher, Stephen Chen, Dad Magnusewski, Greg Griffin, Gary Ott, Enoch Hurd, Richard Pineda. They complete the first 4 rows. Ahead of Steve Blevitt, Brad Evans, Gerda Svenslovas, who's the driver that brought about the red flag, then Anthony DiCarlo and Jeffrey Keel and Mitchell Green. Now, drivers that didn't set a time, Gregory Hopkins, Kevin Orsini, Henry Hummel, Lance Corley, and Michael Merrithew. So they will be starting in the order that you can see on our classification graphics on screen. As Tony mentioned, with such a tight timetable, the Ferrari Challenge, it absolutely crams the track activity in terms of giving great value. But there's very little wriggle room in terms of when things happen. Let's take a look at Mark Musso here, driver of the 313 car in Ferrari Challenge, and he's a 488 Pirelli driver. The Pirelli drivers have the red strip across the top of the windscreen. The Shell drivers have the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen. These, of course, are the 488 Evo Challenge cars that raced for many years in the Ferrari Challenge right across the world, not only here in North America, but also in Europe, in Japan, and the UK as well. And next year, 2025, Australasia joins the worldwide reach of the Ferrari Challenge as we look at the 397 car of Gray Falva, taking this lovely walk down the cars in terms of preparation before they go out. And Massimo Perina, who I spent quite some time with last night, and he's such a lovely young man and blisteringly quick, Tony. I know you yesterday when we were talking about Massimo, we can't wait to see him in a 296.
Yeah, that is true. He's setting some sort of a record, winning all the qualifyings, winning all the races, and with a solid performance. He doesn't seem to be too exhausted after the races, and everything seems to be under control. The restarts, everything, the way he's pacing himself in qualifying sessions and in the races it is impressive. And like you said, this young driver has an interesting future in this form of racing.
You can talk with much justification and much knowledge in terms of his racecraft, which is unquestionable. Two standouts of his character which really, really impress me, and I see it perhaps from a different side to you, is number one, he's very articulate, speaks very well. And number two, he seems to have a head on his shoulders that belies his years. He seems very mature, very cool, calm, and makes and takes sensible decisions. He's not, yes, he is a very young driver, but I think he's got a wise head on him.
Yeah, I see a young driver who's really excited about his racing and sort of discovering his talent every time he goes on track, and sort of in a momentum where everything works out really well. Sometimes a driver doesn't even know why he's so much better than the others. He's just doing things on track, behind the wheel, how the instinct, how he feels the corners, how he feels the race car. And I think this is the case with Massimo Perina. He's really won with his race car, this 488 Challenge Evo. He goes on different tracks, different track conditions, and he's just solid P1 in every session so far. So impressive.
Right. Solid P1 in every session and an unbeaten record in terms of race results. He is the benchmark. He is the trend setter. There's no question about that. So whilst the recovery operation continues, and not only the recovery operation, it's also making sure that tyre barrier, its integrity is maintained, and the guys working on that very, very hard, which is why we have just a small delay before we get the Pirelli cars out there on track for their qualifying session. But the same deal applies in that they will have just 10 minutes to set their best and fastest lap time to give them their grid position for the second race of this Ferrari Challenge weekend here at Watkins Glen. From here, of course, we head off to the Sonoma Raceway in California before Indianapolis, the Brickyard, and then it's all eyes on Italy and the Finale Mondiale in the middle of October. That's where Finale Mondiale is being held this year. Of course, the 2025 calendar was revealed last night in a very glittering evening, which was an absolute joy, and I was very proud and privileged to be but a small part of that. Indeed, Tony alongside me was also part of it as well, and the whole atmosphere. It's sometimes hard for us to be able to articulate just what a all-embracing weekend, a Ferrari Challenge weekend is, from hospitality to the way that people are looked after, and it's such a fantastic environment. And last night was just typical of that, and it was all culminated in perhaps the most breathtaking firework display I think I've ever seen, and I've seen a few.
Yeah, I would say the foundation is the racing, the tracks we go. It's a beautiful calendar for next year, and then on top of it we have these activities. We have the hospitality for the drivers, their guests, their families, so it's a really nice area where you can enjoy a little bit of mix of Italian, maybe American kitchen, and like you said, the atmosphere is great. People have, and the drivers have, hard racing on track, but evenings like yesterday, great showing how we come together, and I agree with the fireworks. I haven't seen anything like that before.
It
was amazing. The combination with music and the timing with everything that was happening on Sky was impressive. And I actually asked Tony Davis, how do you do the timing? Because with the right moment of the music, right fireworks were hitting the sky, and he said all automatic, all done by computers.
Amazing,
so it's really amazing.
Also amazing is Amanda Busick, who has got Matt Dalton, who of course on that for a rather shortened qualifying session has succeeded Amanda.
And also, who is even more amazing, Matt Dalton. And you join us over here as the pole position winner for the race today. And Matt, you're second of the season. I know we are knocking on the door of that win. Why could today be it?
I think today might be better. You know, the weather is fabulous. The 111 team has the car so set up. I'm very fortunate to have Pete Spinella and his team supporting us. I had a rough day yesterday. I hate to say that, finishing P2, but I just feel better today. It's my first weekend at this track. This track is amazing. Watkins Glen is just, I hear all the racers talk about it. Now I see what they're talking about. It is a very fun and very fast track. So I think we'll do okay today. Obviously, getting pole position helps a lot. And we'll just do a repeat of what we did yesterday and hopefully bring it home.
When you talk about having a rough day yesterday, talk about the mental fortitude side of racing that's required.
Yeah, it takes a lot. You know, you're trying not to really get into anybody, and then, you know, sometimes it happens. Somebody gets into you, and but you know, that's this is what I love about the Ferrari Challenge Series, is that you're here to have fun. And, you know, everybody is here trying not to run into each other. You know, it's not cheap to fix these cars. But anybody out there that is on the edge, on the fence, thinking about doing this, getting into the Ferrari Challenge Series is a great way to do it. It's so much fun.
One more question for you as we learn a little bit more about Matt Dalton. What does the words Hello Kitty mean to you?
You know, my daughter handed me a Band-Aid when she was very, very young, Hello Kitty Band-Aid. It started with Band-Aids, and it's kind of gotten out of control at this point to where the team is now hiding Hello Kitty stickers all over my car, and then they move them to see if I notice, you know. So, but I do enjoy having the kids that come with their parents sign their name on my car, count how many Hello Kitty stickers they can find. It's just, my wife and I love kids, and we like to help Ferrari make this an event for families.
Nice, love it.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you, Matt, for telling us about that. The reason I'm laughing is because my youngest son, Toby, who is 24, still insists on every Christmas sending someone in the family a Hello Kitty Christmas card. So, anyway, lovely to hear from Matt Dalton, and wow, what an ambassador he is for the Ferrari Challenge, and just proving just what a great place it is for you to be. If you're on the fence and thinking about it, don't think too long. Right, now the Watkins Glen track that Matt was talking about is one that, if you master, is so rewarding. And to give you an indication of what it's like, here's Dave Musial 2.0 with a hot lap of Watkins Glen.
Hi, I'm Dave Musial 2.0, driver of the number 31 296 Challenge car with Ferrari Lake Forest, and I'm going to take you for a lap around Watkins Glen International Raceway. Here we are at Watkins Glen, coming up to the start-finish line, and I'm going to brake it right about the 400, hard braking, going to turn right, get on the apex, get on the gas, let it track out to the left, going to wait until the end of the curb to turn, going to hold it down here on the right-hand side, up until the end there, make a left, hold it on the left-hand side and let it kind of track out to the guardrail. Now I'm just staying on the gas and going through the gears. Just waiting up until right about the 400, gonna hit the brakes, get through the bus stop, go right, then left again, and then just get back on the power, let it kind of track out but not too far, and get it back over to the right, and then get onto the gas once I see the watchtower. And then coming up here, gonna be braking at about the 200, and then just not getting too wide, trying to keep it in, and then letting it track out to the right, get up on the apex there, and then braking right about the 200 again, and then trail braking it in, and then getting back on the power, letting it track all the way out on the left-hand side. And then going to be braking right about at the 200 again up here, and then trail braking it in, getting on the gas, and then letting it track all the way out, using all the road on the left-hand side. Drop it to fourth gear here, and then hold it, and then get back onto the power, let it track all the way out. And then coming up here, gonna turn at the 100 board, and then let it track all the way out. And then coming up here, gonna get back to the left, and then get back on the apex on the right, and let it track all the way out to the left. And that's a lap at Watkins Glen.
Thank you, Dave Musial 2.0. What really struck me about watching that lap, Tony, and you've raced here many times, Dave's awareness, his cleanness on the throttle, but also he's just keeping an eye on the rearview mirrors as well to see where everyone is. His awareness out there on track was really good.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there was a lot of driver technique things on this. So first, braking with the right foot, you can brake both. You can use the left or the right. In my mind, you can be as fast both ways. Interesting thing is the way he was holding steering wheel. He was really preparing his fingers for the pedal shift, for the upshift on the right hand side and downshift on the left hand side of the steering wheel. And one important thing, when you are in the race car, you don't need to kill the steering wheel. You hold the steering wheel actually with a quite light touch.
Okay.
Important is the reactions, that you don't have stiff hands, you have hands ready to play with the steering wheel. With his driving, was beautiful to see it. You could see the confidence with the race car. All the lines were really good. Where drivers and teams work is through telemetry, through onboard videos, is the rolling speed through the corners. Obviously, with the gears, you don't have much to play because you learn the right gears pretty soon. So it's just about repeating the downshifts and upshifts. But then it's just carrying more speed, quicker off the brake, carry more speed, open the throttle earlier, and all this process becomes quicker when you have a light fuel and new tires on the car, so like we have today in qualifying.
Thank you, Tony. Good to see. Dave Musial 2.0. Take some credit from Tony Verlander then for doing a great job out there. Just one question I have for you. Trail braking means?
Trail braking is the thing that with the Ferrari cars, it works really well. So if you learn the technique here in Ferrari Challenge, you can bring it into our GT cars as well. So it means that you carry the initial brake pressure goes really high, let's say 80 to 100 bars even. We do have ABS, but then instead of after the braking releasing the brake completely, you leave 10, 15, 20 bars of brake while you're turning into the corner, and you get the nose of the car down, which creates more grip to the front tires. So you don't need to set up the car too low in the front, meaning that then at some of the corners the rear might come over, so you have over rotation to find a balance with the right height of the car, front and rear, so the pitch of the car, and then you can play with this driving technique. It's not an easy thing to learn, even if you really concentrate, but it comes through time. And one of the techniques that all the top Ferrari official drivers use to take most out of our race cars.
Thank you, Tony. Right, let's get back to qualifying action then with our 488 Challenge Pirelli drivers out there on track. Mark Musso, the very car that we are looking at there. So we have some 6 of the cars out there for this 10-minute qualifying. Jason McCarthy, Mark Musso, Michael Porter, Massimo Perina, Logan Broughton and Gray Falver. And Massimo Perina then will do his level best to try and get past Mark Musso here and get on his way.
Yeah, Musso was quite happy yesterday for his race. He was looking forward to go back to racing. We had that safety car in the end, and now Musso is in a good place because the expectation is Perina is going to hit the pole position, so don't let him go too far away and then sort of follow what he's doing, and I think he's in a perfect place for this qualifying.
It'll be an interesting strategy and see if Mark Musso follows your indications there. As now yesterday Massimo Perina came out installation lap and pretty much nailed it within a couple of laps, which meant that he had great tyre longevity for the race. So we're expecting probably a similar strategy from him and the team today. The Ferrari of Seattle team, and Massimo Perina, of course, victorious yesterday. Gray Falver in the 397 car, engineered by Ferrari of San Francisco. Gray Falver in the 488 Challenge Evo then, and this qualifying session underway, and it's short sharp, just 10 minutes of track time for our Pirelli drivers to set the best lap time they can and give them the most advantageous grid position that they can muster in the relatively early morning here at Watkins Glen. Logan Broughton then in the 376 blue Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo, the car which of course was the Ferrari Challenge car for a number of years and hugely successful, and the car still looking and sounding brilliant out there. Now, really impressive is the wide world Ferrari driver Jason McCarthy, who, as we've mentioned over the course of our weekend this weekend, does double duties because he races not only in the Trofeo Pirelli class of the 488 Challenge, but also races his 296 as well, Tony.
Yeah, he had a great day yesterday, winning the 296 race and finishing P2 behind Perina. And I had a few questions about the 488, and he said, we are working so hard to catch this young gentleman who is doing so well, racing the bar, meaning that he needs to take the most out of the race car and also his skills. And it is forming a 2-driver battle in this 488 category, meaning Perina, McCarthy, and each weekend feel like they are on the front row and fighting for that win.
Good point, well made. Loving the drone shot of Massimo Perina then, who's going to give us our first time on the clock then. So we watch him through the right-hander now, and just taking a little bit of curb on the exit there. Massimo Perina, a centimetre, millimetrically almost perfect around every single turn here. Absolutely clinical in his execution of putting a good lap together, and yeah, very young mind, very talented young driver, but able to hit the mark seemingly on every occasion. So a little bit of bank in there around that left-hander, carries as much speed as he can across the timing line, and we're expecting I was going to say we're expecting a 151. I'm not far out, a 151.7 so far. We will see if he can improve. He's going a bit wide there, Tony.
Yeah, using a lot of the exit curve at 1, and I think for Perina this lap right now is the one that's going to count. Okay. So like he did yesterday, he posted the first lap time and then he was able to improve a lot. So also the thing to notice with the winning drivers, often in different forms of motorsport, it looks effortless. It looks like you're not 100% sure that is these drivers on the fast lap or are they coming back to the pits, because everything is so smooth. And the same thing with Massimo Perina's driving is it looks really clean and very smooth.
Logan Broughton we're watching right now, who's going to post his lap time as he heads to break the timing beam right now, and it is a well, as you can see, a full 1.5 seconds quicker than Massimo Perina, which really reinforces what Tony was saying, that he thinks it's this lap that Massimo is on that will be the one. So Logan Broughton goes to the top of the chart. Here comes Jason McCarthy. And Jason really, as you said, Tony, is upping his game, if you like. Not that he isn't successful, hugely successful is Jason McCarthy, and a very experienced racing driver. And momentarily, he goes to the top of the charts with a 1:48.912. Massimo Perina then, Ferrari of Seattle. It's Jason McCarthy from Logan Broughton, and this man that he's currently P3, but we're expecting an improvement. And I think we'll be disappointed if that doesn't come.
Yeah, really using the track at the exit, so carrying a lot of speed into the last corners. Little moment with the rear over rotation when he went on throttle, and let's see the lap time.
You called it, didn't you? 1:47. I mean, the margins are extraordinary. A 1:47.5. That is a full 1.5 seconds quicker than Jason McCarthy. And Mark Musso then posts a time which is good enough for P4, make that P5 as Logan Broughton and Gray Falver go a bit quicker. So it is with 3.5 minutes remaining as Jason McCarthy is currently P2. Michael Porter improves 3 places, goes from P6 to P3 with a time in the 1:49s. Logan Broughton then, target is a 1:47.5. It's a big ask for our drivers to be able to compete with the talent that is Massimo Perina, who I remind you is completely unbeaten this season. And Logan Broughton then stays P2 at the moment. He's still a second and 2/10 down on the time of Massimo Perina. Wide world Ferrari driver Jason McCarthy then will throw everything, barring the kitchen sink, at this to try and get still closer.
He carried a lot of speed into 10, so the second last turn, and really wide in the exit, almost a little bit of bottoming of the car on the exit curve, but half a second.
Yeah, he gets within 5/10, doesn't he? So Jason's obviously pushing very hard. Now we think that Massimo Perina, probably having set that 1:47.5, has come into the pit lane and effectively parked the car. And only 2.5 minutes for any of the other 5 drivers to respond to that Massimo Perina time. Here comes Michael Porter then, currently sitting P4, about 1.5 seconds down on the time of Massimo Perina. Is this going to be an improvement from P4 for the Ferrari of Seattle driver? Well, we will know in but a few seconds' time. A little bit of a wobble on the exit of the turn there. But he's got it all dialed in and under control, I would suggest, as Michael Porter then, the right-hander now. You hear him going down through the shifts, and then carry as much speed as you possibly can as you head towards breaking that timing beam. And Michael does that and stays P4. 1 3/4 minutes remaining in this quali session. Jason McCarthy is going again, Tony. He's absolutely determined to try and find the 5.5 tenths that he needs to find to take it to Massimo Perina. It would be headline news if he was able to take away this P1 position from the man that remains completely unbeaten. Oh, and again, a little bit of a sideways moment, Tony.
Yeah, Jason is aggressive behind the wheel, so he's really using the maximum on the tires, using the whole racetrack exits, inside curves, and this is very characteristic for his driving style, what we've seen the whole season. So, but already he's done one lap more, but he's narrowing the gap down to 3/10 now.
He is, but surely, Tony, there becomes a risk reward here, because every single lap he's taken a little bit more out of his Pirellis.
Yeah, this is true, because we have 10-minute session, but you always start these qualifyings with the plan, meaning that how many fast laps, and you try to stay within the plan. It doesn't always work out. You need to do a few more laps, but I think Jason is backing off right now, and this is this is his final result for this qualifying.
Yes, because presumably, and the maturity of a driver is, you know, when you know you've hit your delta and you're not going to go any better, is there's no point scrubbing more of that rubber off. You're better off having the tyres for the race.
Yeah, this is the thing that the drivers feel when the tire is giving you the most. That's the time when you need to be ready to do it. But after that, even if you still sort of improve, fine-tune your driving, the grip is not there anymore. So you need to be ready at the right time of the qualifying, and it's normally with the 488 we see in the first two flyers, so the fast laps are the ones that count.
So Mark Musso remains out there, currently P6, and Mark is hoping for an improvement. Of course, when the checkered flag has come out, the session isn't necessarily over, because any driver that had crossed the timing line before the clock had counted down to 0, the next lap will remain and will still count in terms of the qualifying session, and Mark Musso still have 2/3 of the lap to do, so this could be an improvement for Mark Musso. He's got very, very clear track ahead of him. He's able to hit every mark, nail every apex, and use the space advantage that he has to just focus. And you often hear this in racing terms, where drivers are expected to go out and do quali laps. This is precisely what a quali lap is, when you've got that clear track and you are on your own effectively. Get out there and do it. It's just you and your machine, your race car, and the track that is at your behest to deliver everything you can. A lot of drivers getting sideways on the exit of that turn, just losing the back end a little bit as they carry as much speed as they possibly can. A little bit of opposite lock just to correct it. Of course, when the car is going sideways, it is costing you valuable 100ths and 1000ths, but Mark Musso then is about to break the beam now. Is it going to be an improvement for the Ferrari of Ontario driver? Regrettably, it isn't. He stays P6, so that really is our qualifying session done for our 488 Challenge Pirelli cars, the Pirelli and the Shell cars. The Shell session, of course, was the shortest, but brought about by Gerda van Slovis, meeting the barriers, regrettably. So there we have it. We will bring you the classification, and as if by magic, there they are. Massimo Perina, yet again, 147.500. It gives him P1 ahead of Jason McCarthy, Logan Broughton, Michael Porter, Gray Falver, and Mark Musso. Well done to all of our drivers for qualifying and setting the grid for the second of their races across this weekend. Massimo Perina, what a star you are, I'm tempted to say. And I have some justification in so doing, because he has been utterly unbeatable thus far in 2024. Will that remain the case come the end of the 30-minute race for the 488 Challenge cars? We will see a little bit later this afternoon. Make sure you join us for that. Up next, we will have our Shell drivers in the 296s out for their qualifying session. 10 of those will be out there. As we see the Eric Marston car taking to the track, the 126 car. Eric Marston on a real purple patch of form, Tony, and doing a good job. Really chasing down the championship, but Ray Acosta, Mike Luley, Rob McWilliams, Eric Marston, Lisa Clark, Jan Bernier, Bruce Cleveland, Chuck Whittle, John Viscup, and Osvaldo Gallo to give a roll call of all the drivers that are out with our Shell cars with the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, and it's Bruce Cleveland that we focus on right now. Let's see how they do.
Eric Marston was really happy about his race performance yesterday. I said, did you sleep at the start? He said, maybe the other guy had a run on me from P2. He said he hit the throttle at the right time when the green flag was showed, and he was convinced that there was not much he can do. But after that, the turn one went really well, and Eric's pace in the race was over a second per lap quicker than the others. So he was super happy, and he's on a really nice sequence of good results, so he's really enjoying this new car, and he keeps saying that just somehow from the first time when he sat on a 296 and hit the track, something clicked, something really happened with his driving, and the more aero balance and more grip provided the Pirelli tires gave him the tools to be really fast with this car, and he's having a great season.
Also having a great season, bar none, is Massimo Perina, who did brilliantly in qualifying, and he's with Amanda Busick.
Absolutely, Dave. He'll start race number 2 here at Watkins Glen in the position that he has started every race here this season. And a lot of time drivers will say, nothing can beat us but ourselves. Where are you still improving as a driver?
Mostly in my consistency. I find sometimes that I'm not exactly where I want to be, but having some free road sometimes during the race allows me to try to do that.
And what is the secret form of champagne spraying? You've gotten pretty good at it.
Well, I have to give all credit to Michael Petramalo. He has a lot of experience of spraying champagne, and it's if you're familiar with Lando Norris, it's where he grabs the bottle and he slams on the ground, and it sprays a good 30 feet in the air. Apparently I'm getting pretty good at it.
It was a great display yesterday, Dave, and he was careful to say, I don't want to speak before I can today, but I hope to do it again.
Well done, Massimo, and continue with those dramatic celebrations, because we love them. We absolutely love them. Right, we're watching the 126 car of Eric Marston here. Now, Eric, of course, in this qualifying session, needs to get clear tarmac ahead of him, and that's precisely what he's done. He's kind of threaded the car as if a needle through the traffic so that he's got clear track ahead of him, and this is good to watch.
By the way, this is my favorite livery of the
Really?
of the race car, with the changing colors,
Okay.
with the sun reflecting on the car. So I really like this livery. With the 296 is a bit different, the procedure how to warm up the tires, so you need to wait for the front tires a bit more, so you cannot force the issue before the tires are ready to go. So you feel it in the corners, a little bit more understeer, the braking stability is not the same, you cannot stop the car with the really effective grip from the front tires, so it takes few laps more than the 488, and that's why all the cars are on track for this 10-minute session. And I think just around now, 4 to 5 minutes to go, then we start seeing some proper lap times.
Well, as much as you admire the livery on the Chuck Whittle car, it performs, as does he, pretty well. Yesterday taking his 3rd P2 in a row. That's no mean feat. And yes, you're right. I mean, the colour changing as the light reflects is something very special. Bruce Cleveland is quickest, Chuck Whittle is 2nd fastest, and Eric Marston is merely 3rd fastest for the moment. Mike Luley, good to see P4, then Rob McWilliams running P5 at the moment. Bear in mind, though, that we are expecting improvements to come and for drivers to set still further and quicker lap times. Lisa Clark, Ferrari Beverly Hills, of course, last year's Coppa AM champion, does a lot of racing, does Lisa. She was racing just last weekend in Portimao in Portugal. And, yeah, back across the pond to race here in Watkins Glen this weekend. So seat time absolutely crucial. Lisa, a bit like Ray Acosta, also in this category, trying to get as much time in the 296s as you can. And presumably, Tony, you will tell me the more familiar you become with the car and the nuances of the car makes you a better driver.
Yeah, Lisa ran a little bit wide in turn 1. He lost the apex and then was a little bit in trouble with the exit curve, but overall, I really like the way Lisa almost always kicking herself a little bit. I want to go faster, I want to improve these things. So she has a really nice approach for these weekends, and she's just so passionate, wants to do race after race, has been racing in Abu Dhabi, in Europe, different tracks, and in US as well. So I would say more or less when there is a 296 race weekend, Lisa normally is there in the starting grid and enjoying these weekends, and I appreciate and I like her a lot.
Chuck Whittle P1, John Viscott P2, Ray Acosta P3, Eric Marston P6 at the moment. Where's the improvement going to come, and when's it going to come? Right now. Goes to P1, having taken 3/10 out of the Bruce Cleveland time, a 1:47.087 for Eric Marston, gives him provisional P1 with 3 minutes of this session remaining. John Viscott doing a good job for Boardwalk Ferrari, currently P5. Momentarily, he was right at the top of the chart. I love the drama of these short, sharp qualifyings, Tony, because actually you cannot get it wrong. You've got to go out there, you've got to deliver from the get-go.
Yeah, that is true, and I think that Eric needs to still go for another lap, and I think he started the lap really well. He did a perfect execution again, a slower lap time, around 3 seconds slower was the previous lap, and now he posted the fastest lap time. So right way to do with the tires, and there's also, I think, a lot of teaching how to do it from his coach Ale Balzan, who is a master of this these things. And Ale also has a system where he can follow live from the pit lane to see Eric's driving and actually give some advice and tips, get more gap, get closer to the other car, overtake this car now to have a free lap afterwards. So there's a lot of communication even inside a 10-minute qualifying.
Yes, the relationship that you have with your driver coach, and Ale Balzan, one of a number of driver coaches, and of course these coaches all fantastic drivers and racers in their own right. And you want your racing driver to be something like a sponge, really, to absorb all that information and to take it on board. As Chuck Whittle stays P3, Bruce Cleveland stays P2.
Yeah, really narrowed the gap now. Bruce Cleveland is only 200ths behind Eric, so that's what I said. Eric needs to still go for it because there's a minute and a half to go, and these tires, they give more performance for more laps. With 488 we could see that one golden lap. With the 296 you can repeat the lap time and even improve your driving the next lap. So that's why I think Eric needs to still be on it.
Jan Bernier improves a place. Of course, he was on the podium in race 1 yesterday. Jan Bernier, another driver that absolutely passionate about racing on the Ferrari Challenge. And, boy, you can almost feel the curbs rattling as Lisa Clark then continues on an improvement trajectory. Currently P9, hoping to be able to better that right now as she breaks the beam and stays P9 for the moment. It is Marston from Cleveland, but only 2 100ths between P1 and P2. And critically, not only does P1 give you the best and most advantageous grid position, but it also gives you an additional point in the Drivers' Championship as well. Rob McWilliams, well, he controlled that nicely.
Carried a lot of speed into...
Good avoidance from Mike Luley.
Yeah, carried a lot of speed into 7, so there's a little bit of banking in this corner, so you can really do a later braking into the corner, but I think he just released the brake really early and just wanted the car turn a bit too aggressively, and that's why the rear came over.
Big shout out to the marshals, of course, that do a great job. He was very, very quick on the yellow flag there, and that means that every other driver that was approaching that incident area was aware of what happened there.
Yeah, racing line was perfect. The braking into the corner was really good, but I think if you go and check the telemetry, there was just a way higher speed than the previous lap, right. And that's why the rear came over. And luckily nobody hit him, and he's able to rejoin. At the same time, we also have a checkered flag. So,
well, there we have it then. I have to say that was really, really close between Eric Marston and Bruce Cleveland, just 2 100ths. I mean, perhaps one more lap, it could have been all so different, couldn't it, Tony?
Yeah, that's what Eric said also yesterday after qualifying. He said he really needs to be on it because it's so small gaps between the drivers, and like we saw yesterday, qualifying is 30 to 50% of the race. I say this because of the overtaking is quite tricky. You almost need to make a mistake, put the other driver under pressure to be able to overtake him, and we saw some great racing yesterday, but not easy to overtake here.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Ray Acosta and John Visca, P4 and P5 in qualifying. Very, very good showing in qualifying for those drivers. But Bruce Cleveland taking it to within 2 100ths of Eric Marston's pole sitting time. He will be in receipt of the pole position award, and of course in receipt of yet another point to add to his championship tally, which is very, very valuable indeed. But yeah, big shout out to Bruce Cleveland. What a drive for the Ferrari of Silicon Valley driver. New into the Shell class for this year. He delivered a fantastic qualifying lap, and as I say, within 2 100ths of our pole sitting time. So that front row is going to be very, very interesting come the race this afternoon. So well done to all our drivers. Let's get the confirmed classification. Here it is on screen for you right now. Eric Marston, P1 then, with a 147.087 ahead of Bruce Cleveland, Chuck Whittle, Ray Acosta, John Visca, Rob McWilliams, Jan Bernier, Osvaldo Gallo then. They complete the first 4 rows of our virtual grid. Ahead of Lisa Clark, Mike Luley, and no time set by Mitchell Green. So that's the way our Coppa Shell qualifying went. Coppa Shell AM qualifying will follow very, very shortly. And they will be taking to this Watkins Glen track, again in the hope and pursuit of setting the best lap time they can for the races to come this afternoon. So get some onboard footage here of Lisa Clark then rattling those curbs. So the Ferrari Beverly Hills driver doing a lot of racing, as we've talked about and Tony mentioned, and into the pit lane then with another qualifying session done and dusted. Great to see the onboard shot, and you can see there is a screen right in the middle of the dashboard, and the reason for that is because there's a big safety bulkhead behind the driver of these 296 Challenge cars, which means a rear view mirror cannot be used inside the car. But all the drivers love the rear view screen because it gives them so much more visibility than they had with even the widest rear view mirrors. So cameras project the images from behind onto that screen so that the drivers can see all the time what's going on behind. Although many racing drivers will tell you don't be looking too much at that, look forward.
Yeah, it comes more into play, I would say, with the multi-class racing, races like IMSA, where you have really faster cars, so it is actually a good element. You watch it every straight line. After each corner you check the rear view screen to see how it's forming up. With the races like Ferrari Challenge, yes, if you are in a tight battle towards the end of the race and you need to protect the racing line, the other driver is just behind you, so it gives you an idea where the other driver is, but I would say most often eyes forward and concentrated on what's happening ahead of your race car instead of just looking backwards.
Thank you, Tony. Purple patch man is Eric Marston, the Ferrari of Westlake driver. He's put at pole position once again, but he was run very close by Bruce Cleveland, Amanda Busick.
Yeah, Dave, I was just talking to him about that off camera. Says that his team does tell him the lap times of his competitors. How do you use that as motivation while you're on track?
Well, it makes me push harder, especially when they're as close as Bruce was. Unfortunately, though, I set mine and then he set his, and I didn't get a chance to set one more. So I was sitting in the pits with my fingers crossed that he wasn't going to do just that little bit more. So, yeah.
We've been talking about Watkins Glen and the ability to find opportunities. Obviously, you're going to be at the front of the grid. How do you minimize the mistakes that your competitors are going to hope that you make?
Again, just focus on all my marks, focus on my break points, my lines, keep it all going straight in my head.
Awesome. Good luck today, Eric.
Thank you so much.
Well done, Eric Marston. Another P1. Great job done. And here we can see in replay then, he's talking about hitting every mark, Tony. Bouncing those cars. I mean, absolutely, I remain gobsmacked at just how much of these curves you take.
Yeah, we saw these images already yesterday, and this is great way to see the way the cars are handling, taking those curves, a little bit of bouncing with the whole race car, and also how dedicated, how decisive the drivers are approaching bus stop, because you come in a really high speed and take the first curb really aggressively just to allow you to carry more speed in and throughout the bus stop. So just great images and a lot of courage also, these drivers, and great car handling through that fast speed section of the track.
Right, we are right into our Shell AM qualifying right now, and the all pink car that you can see at the in this picture is Jerry Walters, who of course put it on pole position yesterday. Did a brilliant job, and perhaps Lady Luck wasn't with her during the course of the race, and I spoke to Jerry last night, and she was so emotional having taken that pole position, and I think if anyone deserved a podium yesterday, Jerry certainly did. Regrettably, it wasn't going to be there. She'll try and right the wrongs of yesterday today, and we know from the pace that we saw yesterday, Tony, she is going to be a contender for pole position once again.
Yeah, very, like you said, very emotional after yesterday's qualifying, showing a little bit of the stress level these drivers have, but also how much they work behind the scenes for their performance. We see a 10-minute qualifying, but there is a continuous work how to improve, a little bit on the fitness side, but also a lot related to the driving, how you drive these cars and how you can improve every day or every race meeting. So yesterday's qualifying was great showing of her capabilities behind the wheel, but also the emotional side, which was really cool to see.
We saw just momentarily ago the all-yellow car of Helen Shue as we watch now Roger Monteforte, then the Ferrari of Central New Jersey driver, and a driver of the very fast 101 car. It's all about the ones because he took the win yesterday, his second in a row for Roger Monteforte, having won the second race at Montreal within class, and that wasn't his only win because he won in Laguna Seca as well. So Roger Monteforte then having a good time of it, and just perhaps reinforcing what you were saying about the drivers really at one with these 296 Challenge cars. And drivers tell me that actually they are phenomenal, almost beyond words racing car, but a racing car that actually is so rewarding and actually a little bit forgiving as well, Tony, so suiting a lot of drivers' driving styles.
Yeah, the increased grip just makes drivers happier. You carry a lot more speed into the corners, and tracks like we have here in Watkins Glen, it's just a great place to drive these cars, and a lot of power, over 700 horsepower, and the lap times, there's not a huge gap between the 296 GT3 cars. Having said that, they run into a BOP, they run into the rules of each championship. This is turn 10.
Right, around has gone a car, no harm done, should be able to get going there, but is there a puncture, Tony?
Puncture or something broken on the right rear.
Well.
Yeah, so I was saying there's not a big difference between these 296 Challenge cars compared to the GT3. Obviously they run different rules, but these cars, what we're seeing on track, are really impressive, and drivers are super happy with these new cars.
And the BOP you talk of, for anyone that's new to Ferrari racing, BOP in other categories is, of course, this balance of performance where judgments are made across manufacturers to ensure parity across cars.
Yes, this comes into a play with the multi-class, multi-manufacturer racing, so you need to balance different type of race cars. Ferrari normally actually is a benchmark of BOP, meaning that Ferrari's balance is so good, so it's well balanced in the corners. Sometimes we do struggle on the straight lines in championships like WEC or IMSA, because Ferrari is just so quick in the corners, and the other cars are balanced around Ferrari. Ferrari rarely gets breaks with the weight or increased power. Instead, other cars are modified or changed with the BOP around Ferrari cars.
Thank you. That explains what BOP is, in case you didn't know. Thankfully, it doesn't impact or have any effect on our Ferrari Challenge racing, as Gabe Harib has gone quickest ahead of Jerry Waters, Roger Monteforte, then Brian Watersdorf, Roy Carroll, Dana Goodwin, Steve Czech, Neil Langberg, then it's Melissa Kozira and Helen Shue as Jerry Walters posts an improvement and a time of 150.910 to go P1 momentarily. I say momentarily, may stay that way. We've only got 3.5 minutes of this session remaining for our Coppa Shell drivers out there on track here at Watkins Glen. Roger Monteforte then, well, he takes a full 1.2 seconds out of Jerry Walters. And Roy Carroll takes time out of Jerry Walters, as well as Roger Monteforte with a 149.650, the first of the drivers into the 49s. Then it's Roy Carroll, then it is Jerry Walters, then it is Steve Czech, and here is Neil Langberg for Ferrari South Bay then. Currently 9th fastest, and I'm not convinced that this is going to be an improvement from Neil Langberg. He will go again after this. Don't think he will change his P9 position. Sure enough, it stays as it was. So 13 Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell AM drivers out there for qualifying, and the session with 3 minutes remaining is led by Roger Monteforte. So Roy Carroll getting within half a second, and this is Melissa Kozira then for Ferrari of Naples. I spoke to Melissa this morning, and constantly smiling, having a brilliant time, has raced in Club Challenge and now finds herself racing in the Ferrari Challenge, and really enjoying it and doing a very creditable job as well. Gabe Harib, who was at the top of the chart for a while, and Jerry Walters also had that P1 position for a while. We still have 2.5 minutes in which the drivers can try and improve, and as Gabe then crosses the line, stays the same. Jerry Walters improved a position and goes up to P2. She got within 6/100ths of Roger Monteforte. Tony, the margins are so close here.
Yeah, very close, and also the fact that we are into second day of racing, so everything is just more fine-tuned with the car and the drivers. Coaches helping the drivers to find more speed, carry more speed in these fast corners, and just all these margins just narrowing down.
Every single lap we're seeing improvements. Roy Carroll has just improved to go P2. That knocks Jerry Walters back down the chart, so it's Roger Monteforte, the very car that we see here with a 149.270, trying to improve still further. Then it's Roy Carroll and Jerry Walters, Steve Check, Gabe Harib, Brian Waltersdorf. They are the top 6 at the moment, braking for the right-hander here. And here we can see the Helen Shu car, which we saw earlier on in our qualifying session, the 115 car, currently P10 in our qualifying. And Roger Monteforte then with a benchmark time of 149.270 with almost exactly 1 minute, 60 seconds remaining in this qualifying session as Helen Shu for Ferrari of San Diego rounds out another lap of this Watkins Glen circuit. So the top 3, Roger Monteforte, Roy Carroll, and Jerry Walters, the 171 car that we can see right here. So Ferrari of Vancouver driver who took P1 yesterday. It was a very emotional moment for Jerry, and one that she would really like to repeat, and she's got to find a few tenths to be able to do that. Is it going to come on this lap? Well, we are about to find out as Jerry Walters crosses the timing line and does improve by a, it was initially 2.5 tenths. It's Gabe Harib has narrowed that to 1 3/4 tenths, but this is all fighting on until the very final as Roger Monteforte has got another opportunity, but he's slowed down. He's coming in. He's coming in. So Jerry Walters then, currently P1. Here comes Roy Carroll. Is Roy Carroll going to usurp Jerry Walters? No. So it's Jerry Walters from Gabe Harib and Roger Monteforte. We know Roger Monteforte is not going to set another lap because he's coming to the pit lane. Roy Carroll cannot go again. Is this going to be a double pole position for Jerry Walters this weekend here at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, this is very impressive, and what a nice qualifying. We need to wait few more seconds to see that all the drivers have taken the checkered flag. So, but what a great performance and a thrilling qualifying so far.
Absolutely, and so very close. Just a 10th and 3/4 then between the top 2. Now this is Brian Waltersdorf, who is still on a lap, and currently P6 for Brian Waltersdorf. And there is Jerry Walters, having done it again right in the final knockings of that qualifying session. She clearly has the confidence and the ability to really propel this 296 Challenge car around this Watkins Glen circuit to fine standards. Absolutely brilliant to see. 2 pole positions. That would be extraordinary. As Tony says, nothing is guaranteed until the final drivers have crossed the line and all laps have been completed. But here's Jerry then, who crossed the timing line with the opportunity to put another lap in. And a 149.018, Tony.
Yeah, and the margin was narrowed to almost a tenth, but that looks like it's enough.
I would say so. I don't think anybody else is going to be able to better that time. So Roy Carroll then, he didn't cross the timing line in time to put another lap in, so that's why he's not at quality speed. His best lap, a 149.450, gives him a second row start for our Coppa Shell AM drivers. Well done once again to Jerry Walters then. That was a dramatic qualifying session, which was dynamic right until the very end of the quali, which is exactly how we like it. And that's why, if I'm honest with you, purely from an entertainment standpoint, I love the drama of short, sharp qualifying, because actually you can't afford to get it wrong. You've got to go out there, you've got to do it, you've got to deliver. No margins for error, really, and well done to Gabe Harib.
Yeah, maybe Monteforte ran out of grip on his tires. Yep. Maybe he thought the performance was enough, came into the pits, and next time by, Jerry Walters took the pole.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We love it. And as happy as you and I are, it will be as naught in comparison to Jerry Walters. Well done, Bubbles, P1 again. Gabe Harib, P2. Roger Monteforte, P3. Then it's Roy Carroll. Then it's Brian Waltersdorf. ahead of Steve Check, Melissa Kozira, and Dana Goodwin. That's the way the top 8 looked for our Coppa Show qualifying, and confirmed classification there on screen for you with Neil Langberg P9, Helen Shu P10, and no time set by Talal Shaer, Jeffrey Nunberg, and Bernard Gomez. And quicker than a speeding quick thing, the Pirelli cars will be out for their qualifying, Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers, as it's non-stop qualifying action coming from the Ferrari Challenge here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, the next session, 8 cars on track. These are our fastest drivers. So Pirelli category drivers to watch. Car number 11 yesterday on pole with 1:45.015, really fast in the race. Car number 55, Roberto Perina, so he was really hunting down McCarthy in the race. Dylan Medler said yesterday after qualifying they made some changes after the practice sessions, and qualifying yesterday wasn't super successful. Matthias Kompak, also driver to follow, car number 50. He has had a win already this year, I believe it was in Montreal. Young driver who is just, I would say, 4th weekend of racing with these real race cars, and his performance is improving every weekend. Here we see Matthias Perez Kompak. Obviously I've raced with his father, Luis. I think this weekend he is in most sports, in LMP2 in IMSA, and it's great to see his son racing in this Ferrari Challenge.
Yes, and well done for racing with his father. The Compang family, Ezequiel, is another driver that I've commentated on in the past, and yeah, they're a family with talent running through the veins, it has to be said, Tony.
Yes, they come from Argentina, based also in Miami, and they've done a lot of rallying as well.
Oh, okay.
So WRC, when Kimi was driving couple of seasons in WRC, there was Luis doing some of the races, and I believe was his brother as well. So they are really into motorsport, and great people to always talk in these race weekends, and really big fans of Ferrari.
Rallying, very different discipline, of course, to circuit racing, and yes, of course, almost forgotten that Kimi Räikkönen had done some of that. And,
yeah, Kimi was more upside down than wheels on the ground. He should have put the sponsors on the bottom of the car.
Yeah, on the floor
and
plan.
give him the bigger tools to take out the snow in Sweden. So.
Oh, brilliant stuff.
Warm clothes in the rally car, just to be sitting middle of the forest.
You chaps from that part of the world are very entertaining, aren't you? Here's Dylan Medler then, young whippersnapping Dylan Medler then, driver of the number 15 car from the collection, as he's about to post his lap, and he's really pushing, Tony.
Yeah, we see turn 5, really tight line, and that's the way to do it, because the track falls down on you a little bit, so you will struggle with understeer. So Dylan having that very tight line through turn 5 just after bus stop, that's where the most of the grip is. So let's see Dylan's performance. It's been varying a little bit. He had a strong opening race in Coda, in Circuit of the Americas, then DNF race 2, and after that he's not being really on top. There's been some struggles with the car, and you can see he's fighting a bit. He used the word overdriving as well. It's when you feel that the car is not performing so well, driver wants to put his effort and trying to fix those issues, and it rarely works. So you really need to have the setup right to go fast here.
Yes, got to have all those points ticked off, and yes, the collection driver Dylan Medler then, who's trying to do that. He's doing a lot of racing, was racing just last weekend in Europe at Portimao, getting more seat time in. So Dylan Medler then gives us our first benchmark time, though, a 1:46.073 for Dylan Medler. He is the quickest thus far. Matthias Kompak then, P2. You can hear the Pirelli tyres squealing in protest as the drivers try to take as much out as they possibly can. Right now, though, with, I suspect, a very happy Jerry Walters, here is Amanda.
That is a fair assumption, Dave, and saying this is crazy, this is nuts. I am so happy you do it. Yet again, you back it up at the very end of that session. What kept you pushing?
Because I really thought I had to be in the 48s, and I was trying so hard. So I don't even know what time I got, actually. So I'm so stoked. I'm just so happy. It's just unbelievable. So
I want to go back to yesterday, to the start of that race. I'm sure you have reviewed it. I'm sure you have looked at tape. What will you do differently today?
Try to stay a little closer. The hard thing is if one lane chokes up, you're at the mercy of everyone around you, and trying to play fair and not, just learning racecraft and how to handle that. So we'll get better at it.
Another opportunity to bounce back and learn. And as you look at just the way that the grid goes from your pole position, you do start on the outside heading into turn 1. Do you prefer that position?
Oh, any day of the week. Any day of the week. The outside just has so much more openings. The inside's so pinched that once they start to stack, you're stuck. So it's good. I'll be excited to start there.
Another opportunity for Jerry Walters. She did finish just off podium yesterday with a P4 finish. We'll look to better it here today.
Yes, that's great to see Jerry Walters. Love these images. She's very happy. At the same time, we have the qualifying of the Pirelli class, and these are the decisive moments. So a little bit less than 4 minutes on the clock. The drivers are improving, and this looks to be a fast lap time for Matthias Kompank. Stays P2. Just around 3/10 to Dylan Medler. And actually, Dylan's lap time is very impressive. It's a 1/10.5 quicker than yesterday, almost 2/10 quicker than yesterday's pole position. So Dylan is really on form today, and I would say the improvements they've done with the car you can clearly see with his lap time, and the track is very fast right now.
Wide World Ferrari, Jason McCarthy. We run the clock on now, Tony. We mentioned earlier on, of course, double duty for Jason McCarthy, and the advantage of running in two categories and therefore getting even more track knowledge here at Watkins Glen versus perhaps the disadvantage of having to swap from two different cars. Presumably, Jason would always advocate that the more time you can have on the track is always going to be advantageous whatever you're driving.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it already a few weekends. They say, oh, we have a car in the wall.
Michael Petromalo in the wall there, Tony, and there, yellow, and the red flag is being held, ready to be unfurled, I'm sure.
Yeah, this weekend seems to be turn 1, exit of turn 1, just before going into the SS, and we have another red flag, so I think this is it. This is it for this qualifying. And Dylan Medler, what an improvement from yesterday. Impressive. And 2/10 faster than yesterday's pole position, so great pace. Surprising to see McCarthy struggling. He's 9/10 lower than he was yesterday.
And if I'm honest with you, I saw Dylan and I really thought, once again, and this is a point that you've made, he seems to really wrestle the car. He's very physical inside the car, and actually he has made it work for him.
Yeah, I think it's a learning curve as well, because if sometimes the car is not set up correctly at the younger age, you have the wheel and the rush to go, so you want to fix these problems behind the wheel. No, you need to step down, work with your engineer, improve the car. When the car is ready to perform, then you can do the things you want to do. And I think this is a great example how from day one, from Saturday, he's really improved. And this is the form we saw in Coppa, in the first race of the season.
What this does give for us, Tony, for this afternoon is a brilliant race, because we've got drivers out of position.
Yeah, it's true. Another red flag. So the last 2 minutes, the drivers were not able to improve on track. And I think we're going to get the replay of the accident that caused this red flag.
So it was Michael Petromalo, who incidentally was third fastest. So he got pace, and as you say, it just seems to be turn 1 today.
Yeah, a lot of things happening there. So we saw a big accident in the race start of Pirelli yesterday. It was Bennett and Kompak.
Michael's out of the car and he's perfectly okay, as you can see, and that's always the most important thing. And let's take a look at how did this happen, Tony Verlander.
Yeah, so coming into turn 1, you need to be tight with the racing line. He lost the apex a little bit. He just goes too wide. And this is the tricky part with this curb. This curb is not flat. Right. It has a higher part in the middle, and just the higher part, when he goes to the left, the car moves a bit and he reacts with the steering wheel, and this is what happens afterwards. But he started with the entry into one. He was a bit wide. He carried the momentum, but he was too wide coming from turn one, and you need to be careful because this is the area where you need to release the steering wheel. If you want to ride those curbs, you cannot put steering input. And I think what he did is movement with the curb, and he had the steering correction, and that was wrong.
So it's the camber of the curb, Tony, that does the damage, in your opinion, on this particular occasion?
Yeah, there's a higher part, and he landed on the left-hand side, so the car moved, and he should have just left the steering wheel a bit.
Thank you, Tony. Dylan Medler then, top of the chart for Trofeo Pirelli qualifying ahead of Matias Perez Compact. Good quality. Michael Petramalo, the man that's in the wall, unfortunately, P3. Then Roberto Perina, Dave Musial Jr., Joe Rubo, Jason McCarthy, your driver out of position, P7, and no time set by John Bennett. So what that does for us is gives us a supreme taster for the race to come, because there are drivers that are not where they would have hoped to have been in qualifying, and therefore they are going to have to try and provoke some mistakes from drivers ahead of them to get past them.
Yes, yesterday's winner, McCarthy, Jason McCarthy, P7. Perina was really strong in the race. He's P4. Matias Compact is now on the front row. He's been a bit shy in the starts. He needs to step up a little bit more aggression, defend his place at the starts. Yesterday he was a little bit poor in the reaction, so behind him there was a little bit of opening, and that caused some issues, and he lost one place to Dylan Medler at the start yesterday. So I think he needs to improve. Os Negri is his coach, and I think together they will be ready for today's race start, and one of the key elements for the race.
And there is Jason McCarthy, who doubtless will be a tad disappointed with what he was able to deliver in qualifying. However, we know Jason is a very, very determined driver, and he will see that as a target for him to go even better in the race and try and get past a huge number of cars in front of him, a much bigger number of cars in front of him than he had anticipated or wanted, I feel sure. So, Trofeo Pirelli qualifying 2 done and dusted, brought about by a red flag for Michael Petramalo, just getting caught out by the curbs and pirouetting the car into the barriers. Michael is absolutely perfectly okay, and I am sure that the Ferrari of Seattle team will be working very, very hard on the Michael Petramalo car to ensure that he is able to take the start. But this is where motor racing, Tony, is all about not only the driver and the car, but also about the team behind as well, because now there's not much time between the end of this qualifying session and racing. Cars got to be readied.
Yeah, it's true. This is a team effort, so different moments of the day. So now prepared for the qualifying, and then straight away starts the preparation for race. Another point for the accident we saw in the exit of turn 1 is, is the thing, if drivers you do the fashion thing, switch off the TC. If you don't have the traction control on, you control the car more. And if this phase, I don't know if he had it off, but it could have helped a little bit, because if you have that little bit of wheel spin and the car goes sideways, results like this may happen.
Very fair point. It takes a brave man to run without that TC, perhaps, but a lot of drivers thinking that they are in the best position to judge the traction control and prefer to do it themselves. Maybe. Great drone shot then of the paddock area here at Watkins Glen, and you can see the sun is shining in the beautiful countryside that surrounds this Watkins Glen Raceway. We have our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers still to qualify. The Pirelli drivers, their session is done and dusted. And so Dylan Medler then, the collection driver. I find this fascinating. I mean, it's point and squirt that car across the curbs, and Dylan does it to perfection. Now, a point I want to make here, Tony, is, and you've brought this up earlier on, is where you position that car. The car seems almost to absorb the curbs as well. I mean, it's really very, very forgiving.
Yeah, very good man, Dylan Medler. A racing line that I prefer is very tight in the entry of the bus stop, but also in the middle. Don't open it too much, because then you just only have understeer, which affects you the exit of bus stop and going into turn 5. And he had a perfect line there, and for sure with that driving, he's one of the quickest drivers through bus stop. So great to see.
Yes, and we'll see what Dylan is able to do in the race, but of course his giving himself the best possible starting position. As you can see, the clear-up operation is almost completed, and therefore our Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers will be out for their 10-minute qualifying session very, very shortly. And Michael Petromalo's car has been recovered to the paddock, and Michael is perfectly okay. I just want to really reinforce that message. And there we can see the pit lane, and as I say, the Trofeo Pirelli AM cars will be out momentarily. You can see them lined up at the front of the pit lane there, ready to go out for their qualifying. And looks like John Horsch, to me, who is champing at the bit to get out there quicker than anybody else, Tony. And is there a right wrong in terms of the order that you go out? Because, you know, track position when it comes to qualifying, you know, if you can get that clear track ahead of you, you might only have it for 1 or 2 laps, but it is perhaps valuable.
Yeah, I mean, in the qualifying, a little bit longer qualifying sessions, there's always the tricky part. If you go on track the first one and then cars join the track later, you might be on a hot lap while others are still building up pressures and temperatures. With 10 minutes, I would say all the cars go on track during this out lap. So everybody will be on track. Not a huge number of cars. So if you are leader right now, I would keep the position and just do my own qualifying. We talked about slipstream yesterday. Sometimes you look the slipstream for this back straight going towards the bus stop, but then on the other hand, if the driver in front of you has a slower pace and you cannot do the corners and the brakings you want to do, you lost everything you gained with the slipstream. So I would prefer a clean, clear lap with no traffic, nobody around me, and just me and the car, and perform the best way I can.
Thank you, Tony. Dylan Medler has performed the best way he can and has delivered pole position. He's with Amanda Busick.
And of everything he's accomplished so far this season, Dave, this is the first time this plaque is going into the hands of Dylan Medler, our points leader. And Dylan, you said that was an excellent lap out of yourself. What section of this track did this Ferrari really sing?
Through the bus stop, through those fast corners, it really stuck to the ground. I mean, it really made me get that lap, and my team, they really set up the car for me perfectly. A big jump from yesterday, so we couldn't be more happy.
A lot of drivers talk about the fear of keeping it flat out through those S's. What's the secret there?
Just trusting it. You just got to go for it, and then that's basically it.
Dylan Medler on pole for race 2 here at Watkins Glen.
Well done, Dylan Medler. Brilliant stuff. Juliet will be very happy with you, friend. And, yeah, well done, Dylan. Here is Sebastian Mascaro, then the Ferrari Central Florida driver. Now, I was talking to Sebastian earlier on today, Tony, and coming into a Ferrari Challenge, and bear in mind, Sebastian Mascaro's results have been really, really creditable. No racing experience before joining the Ferrari Challenge. And actually, he was saying that he was questioning where he'd been put in Trofeo Pirelli AM. But actually, he says, I took it on the chin, Dave, and thought, you know, this is a target. I've got to set myself up. I've got to be as good as everybody around me. And I have to say, Sebastian Mascaro has been a real whirlwind in the Ferrari Challenge. And the Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, Sebastian Mascaro.
Yeah, with the Corso Pilota Ferrari events around the world, I met a lot of drivers who are hesitating, should I do Club Challenge? Am I good enough to do Ferrari Challenge racing with the other drivers? So most often I would say take your time and try to join Ferrari Challenge weekends, and then you build up the confidence. It's an environment where you really feel good and easy to join. And Ferrari with the Corso Pilota obviously is there to help you, coach you more individually, to help you to improve the car handling, braking, cornering, and there's professional coaches that help you. So I think the next Corso Pilota is less than 10 days in Mont-Tremblant in Canada. So I've been in a few Corso Pilotas on snow, but also on track, and it's great to see drivers, and you can see the excitement building up. And like we discussed yesterday, a few of the drivers are here today racing in Ferrari Challenge, result of that Corso Pilota, and Ferrari has nice steps to support you and then come towards this type of racing, which is great.
Indeed so. John Horsch we're looking at now, the Ferrari Vancouver driver. Now, you may recall he was the first to show out of the pit lane, and therefore he's probably going to give us our first meaningful timed lap. The all-black number 67 car of John Horsch, then Ferrari of Vancouver. Chatted to John at our party last night, and really loving his racing in the Ferrari Challenge and the 296 Challenge car as he breaks the timing beam with a time of 1:46.613. So for the moment, the best time. I say for the moment because, of course, all the other 12 drivers have got to set their times. Sebastian Mascaro does just that with a time that's some 1.6 seconds down on John Horsch, but expect some improvements to come as Omar Balkasoon goes third fastest. But all of these really are installation laps, aren't they, Tony?
It is, but it's a strong opening lap from Horeshi, which is really on it. If you think about the Pirelli drivers did around 145, and if of the next laps he can still improve the lap time, he's a strong benchmark straight away at the start of this session.
Yes, indeed so. Tony Davis goes fourth fastest with his first timed lap. So it is Horsch from Mascaro, Balkasoon, then Davis, Logan and Michael Mathis, rounding out about half the drivers that we've seen so far. So there's another 6 drivers that are about to show, including Dave Musial, who even on that installation lap, as the front end wobbles a bit on the car, he goes fourth fastest. Brad Falver has gone second fastest right now. 1:46.613 is the target time for all of our drivers as we reach the halfway stage of this qualifying session right now. 5 minutes remaining. And Sebastian Mascaro then for Ferrari of Central Florida. Is he on an improvement trajectory from that current P3 place? We will see in about 20 seconds time as he heads towards the final sequence of turns and of course the final straight heading into the timing line. The number 33 car of Omar Balkasoon. It's Horsch from Falver from Mascaro currently, 4.5 minutes. Loving the short, sharp qualifying session in the Ferrari Challenge. Really drives the drama for us as we watch Michael Mathis. Currently 10th fastest. He will be hoping to improve upon that P10 place. It would be a 5th row virtual start as he crosses the timing line right now. And Michael Mathis improves 7 places, goes up to P3. So big gains being made with every single lap around this Watkins Glen circuit. It remains Horsch and Balkasoon and Mathis, and then Falver and Mascaro. And here comes Tony Davis. And Tony then posts a time that's good enough for P3 at 1:47.002. And the top 3 are split by just 5/10. It's very close at the top of qualifying. We know how quick Brad Falver can be for Ferrari of San Francisco as he almost hugs the guardrail and puts it towards the timing beam. He now goes 3rd fastest, relegating Tony Davis to P4.
Yeah, a few minutes to go, and it will be a tight battle for the lead. It's tightened up at the top 3 drivers, only separated by 3/10. So all of these drivers have a still great shot for the pole position in Pirelli AM. So
here comes Dave Musial then. His best lap of 1:47.749. We need to see improvements from the likes of Brian Cook, of course, driver of the number 3 car, which we pick up on right now, I do believe, as Brian Cook heads towards the timing line. And he goes 4th fastest, so an improvement of a big number of places, but probably still not where he would like to be. He wants to be right at the sharp end of this qualifying timing chart. But at the moment, John Horsch with a lap that came much earlier on in this session with 1:46.449 has not been bested yet.
Yeah, Brian Cook has had a great season, and this next lap is very decisive for him. So he just raised himself into top 3, improved a lot, and I think he still has a lot of performance from the tires. So next lap will be important for Brian.
Sebastian Mascaro's improved a place. Here comes Dave Musial then for Ferrari of Lake Forest. He's out of position at the moment. I would suggest P8. He, of course, had a brilliant race yesterday and really took advantage at the start. And Dave Musial then for Ferrari of Lake Forest, running as far over those curbs as he can, then perfect trajectory into the final turn, and then head the car and point it towards breaking that timing beam as quickly as possible. P8 for Dave Musial, stays P8. So no improvement for Dave Musial. He is going to be able to go again. Brad Falver, P2 at 1:49.900. So we're just a minute and a half. A number of drivers now are on their last timed lap, Tony.
Yeah, I think Fowler had like a cool down lap. He was 5 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds slower this lap. So he gapped himself from the other drivers, and he's trying for another attempt for pole position.
Let's see what Brian Cook can do. He will have enough time on the clock to be able to go again should he so desire. As he heads towards the timing line now, Brian Cook then, has he done enough this time? Yes, he has.
9 thousandths.
Oh, 9 1,000ths. That's how close it is. And I rather think that Brian is going to go again. Here comes Tony Davis, P4, Continental Autosports driver. We've got just 3/4 of a minute remaining on the clock. Anyone that crosses the line before the clock has counted down to 0 can do another lap. And John Horsch is not going to do another lap. He's been bested by 9 1,000ths at the moment, assuming nobody improves still further. And John set that provisional pole time much earlier on in the session. And towards the end of the session, it was taken away by Brian Cook. Now, Tony's going to have enough time to do another lap, which he's going to need. No. 1:46.311. He's not going to need it. He puts it in, but he probably is not going to be satisfied with that, and he's probably going to go again.
Yeah, he needs to keep going. The margins are so tight. So the master of fireworks from yesterday really showing off his pace today. Really cool and tight qualifying. So the top 8 drivers are inside less than a second.
Yes. Here comes Frank Szczesniak then. Of course, up until this point in the season, raced in the 488 challenge, but now in the 296s, here comes Frank Szczesniak then, currently P9. And he breaks the timing beam and does not improve. So it is Davis from Cook from Horsch. So Brian Cook improved again. And Tony Davis is P1, Brian Cook P2, John Horsch P3. And here is Brian Cook, dissatisfied with Tony Davis being at the top of the chart. He is going to try and push him down the order. And Brian hasn't done it. So a 1:46.533. Brian Cook remains P2, and he's not going to be able to go again. So for Brian, it's the loss of the pole position. It's also the loss of the point. And I would say we're done and dusted. No one's on an improvement trajectory. It's Tony Davis on the high of, or after the high of, all the explosive fireworks last night, has been able to take the energy that lit up the sky and put it on track.
Yeah, great performance and very nice qualifying session. The top of the qualifying places changing all the time. Alesi started very fast. Already his first flying lap was really competitive. So just a question mark, the tire pressures, were they too high? And he delivered straight away on his first flying lap, and then after that he was not able to improve anymore.
So we follow the cars then into the paddock. All our qualifyings are done and dusted, and it's this man with the Lakeside Pyro Arts signature on the car that has put it P1. Well done to Tony Davis then. The Continental Autosports driver is P1 from qualifying. He'll be very, very happy about that. Had a fascinating conversation with him yesterday. 2 big passions in his life. 1, Ferrari. 2, fireworks. And he was telling me last night, Tony, he conducted his first firework display when he was just 10 years of age.
Yeah, that is true. And yesterday was something I never seen before, so it was really, really impressive. He was really humble about the show with the fireworks, but it was really a big spectacle and great driving.
The point you made is the fact that it was timed to absolute perfection with the musical accompaniment, which was really, really dramatic. And he was saying, and we were talking off the air about the music that really, really works for magnificent displays like that. But what a magnificent display out there on the track for Tony. Let's get the confirmation of the results right now then. And here they are. Tony Davis, P1. He gets the Rotiform Pole Position Award and, of course, starts P1 and gains a point as well. Brian Cook, P2. John Horsch, P3. Then it's Brad Falver, Dave Musial, Omar Balkasoon, Michael Mathis, Sebastian Mascaro. They are the top 8 in our Trofeo Pirelli AM qualifiers, ahead of Frank Szczesniak and Jay Logan, and no time set by Christopher Cagnazzi and Frank Chang. So if my reckoning is correct, that brings to an end all of our qualifying shows. So now what have we got to look forward to? The racing to come this afternoon, and the scene has been set really rather beautifully by the very dramatic qualifyings that we have had, and not been without incident, it has to be said. Turn 1 claimed a couple of drivers today.
Yeah, we had 6 10-minute sessions. We had some more driver errors today, so really drivers just raising that effort level, trying to look for better lap times, and some mistakes occurred. And for some reason, it's been this weekend between turns 1 and 2. A lot of hits in the barriers, and we saw a couple of red flags as well. But overall, great qualifying sessions.
Okay, Tony Davis has delivered out there on track. Well done, sir. He is with Amanda Busick.
Dave, as you said, his passion is fireworks and Ferraris. And you look at yesterday's race, Tony, and what you were able to learn from. How much did that performance help you here today?
Well, it certainly upset me. So it gave me some fuel for today. You know, only 3 years in, so learn lessons every race. I certainly learned one yesterday for sure.
One of the things we talked about at the top of the broadcast is that you look at the pole positions and how that equated to wins yesterday. Being in that position, are you better at offense or defense?
I think I'm better at offense, so let's go.
All right, there it goes, and we'll get ready for race time, guys.
Well done, Tony. Yes, brilliant job done. And as he says, he likes attacking rather than defending. So we'll see how he does in the race. I have to say, the scene is set really rather beautifully for some epic races to come across all the categories of the Ferrari Challenge here in North America. And this afternoon's racing is going to be superb. Please make sure that you stay tuned for those races. From Amanda Busick, from Tony Verlander, and from myself, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you join us for the races this afternoon. Bye-bye for now.